Greetings, technology enthusiasts. I am Chandrahas and I am delighted to be here with you representing CyberBrainer. Do you not believe that the technology sector is advancing at an unprecedented rate, making this an opportune moment to acquire the skills that will facilitate your progress? With CyberBrainer, we are empowering you to take control of your own future. At CyberBrainer, we do not merely impart your interests. We assert that information is power, yet it is the application of knowledge that distinguishes you. Our courses are meant to equip you with essential skills, whether you are pursuing data science, understanding artificial intelligence, or delving into cybersecurity. Let us commence the session and seize the future today. Thank you.
Today we have to discuss the encryptions. Let's discuss that. Sequence generator, you are clear, right? Now encryptions, encryption, decryption. Encryption and decryption means basically when Workday will generate file. Let's say you have created one integration for one of the downstream system and you have included, S and details. You have included S and N details or you have included the personal details, phone number, email address, all those details. Basically, that file is containing the sensitive information. That file is containing the sensitive information. What happens? Basically, when you deliver, let's say in Workday, the file has been generated. In Workday, the file has been generated. For example, let's say employee kaswa. Then you are delivering this via some SFTP server. FTP. And then SFTP server is going to transmit that file to the Concur system. Let us just assume we are sending data to Concur. In this case here, this employee XV will be generated in Workday. In Workday, the data is secure, the file is secure, everything is secure. But when this employee's way is getting transferred to FTP server, there is transmission happening. And in this transmission, we don't know if someone is hacking the system or not. It could be the other person can hack the system as well, hack the transmission as well. If we simply send employee XV file in which the data is actually the same. For example, for employee A, the SNN number is something like this. The phone number is something like this. And then personal email and all. Let's say if there is, any such data. Let's say if there is any such data and if the file is getting hacked in between the transmission, then this data will be visible and this sensitive information is leaked. This SSN is the most sensitive information in US. I think you guys, are good to understand the sensitivity of that. Basically, what we generally do is before transmitting the file to this SFTP server, we generally encrypt the file. We generally encrypt the file. This data becomes like this one. This data is getting converted into some data. This data is getting converted into some another format where nobody can easily read. Nobody can decrypt that. That is what we call encryption. Here the keys will be involved. In Workday, for encrypting files, we have one mechanism, PCP encryption. The full form of PCP is pretty good privacy. How this works is basically there are two things happening. One is encryption, one is encryption, and other is decryption. Encryption means this data is getting converted into this one. This data is getting converted into this one. And then again, then this data is relayed. Now, once this data is relayed, then this is for the source system. In the target system, this data will be decrypted. And convert it back into this format. Basically two parts here, encryption and decryption. Are you able to understand what does encryption means? Encryption means it's encoding of the data which Workday is generating in some random format that nobody can decrypt. Now there are encryption and decryption here. We do using PUSP. We have two kind of integration. One is inbound, other is outbound. Let us discuss outbound first, then I'll show you inbound. Inbound and outbound integration. What happens? Workday is generating files. Workday is the system which is generating files. These files needs to be encrypted. Now, before I go with outbound, inbound, let me just mention the keys here. In encryption and decryption, there are two kind of keys. The one is public key, the another is private key. Public key will be used. A public key can be shared and will be used to encrypt the files. The private key cannot be shared and will be used to decrypt the files. There are two keys. When we talk about the pipe encryption, there are two kind of keys. One is public key, the another is private key, public key. When you generate a key pair, then two keys will be generated. Whenever you generate for encryption, for PCP encryption, whenever you generate the key pair, then public key and private key, both the keys will be generated. Public key and private key. Both the keys will be generated in which public key can be shared with the system, with the other system, and this will be used to encrypt the files. Private key is something which should not be sharing private key with any other system, and in this private key will be used along with public key to decrypt the files. Here, for example, just any one of you, can just answer this. Let's say we have two systems, Workday and another is Concur. Which system should encrypt the file here? Workday sending files to Concur, Workday Workday should encrypt the files here. And to encrypt a file, which key is required? Public clicky publicly. Yes, basically here in Workday, the files will be generated in Workday, the encryption will happen, and we will need a public key. Basically in case of outbound integration, the target system will generate public private key pair. Once key is generated, target system will share public key with source system. Understand the concept here. Basically, when we talk about Workday to Concur and Workday to Concur, this is basically outbound integration. For outbound integration, Workday needs to encrypt the file and Concur is going to decrypt the file. For encryption, we need public key. For decryption, we need private key, and also the private key cannot be shared. In this particular case, in case of outbound integration, what will happen? Each other system, you are delivering files. That system is going to generate public private key pair. Once that key is generated, that system is going to share public key with Workday, and that system will not share any private key. Because private key is used to decrypt the files. Public key used to encrypt the files. Here, in this case, Workday generating files. Workday file is to be encrypted. Concur's system is going to generate this public private key pair. Concur will share public key with Workday, and then Concur will use private key to decrypt the file. If you want to see how the keys look like, we'll show you in a minute how the keys are look like. Can you repeat it again? You're telling it's a target system will generate, right? But here the Workday is. Could you please repeat yes, this is. I mean, we need to clarify this. There are two systems. Sources Workday and target is Concur. For example, Workday is generating file, let's say employee.csv. This file needs to be encrypted using public key. From where this public key will come? From where this public key will come? This key will come from Concur. Then the target system is Concur. Here, see, once at Concur share the public key, we will configure that public key in Workday. Using this public key, Workday is going to encrypt the file. This employee.csv will be encrypted using these public key will be encrypted. Then the encrypted file will be delivered to FTP or whatever server you know where the file is expecting. Basically, once this file is encrypted using the public key shared by Concur, the file will be delivered. In target system, basically in Concur will receive encrypted employee.csv file. Encrypted employee.csv file. Now to decrypt this file, Concur is already having private key. How Concur is going to decrypt the file using the private key? See, basically the concept is whichever system will generate that system will be having private key stored in that system. Public key, private key cannot be shared. For example, let me show you in Workday here. Here there is one task create PHP private key pair. When you see public key, that means it is just a public key. When you see private key pair, this means public-private key. Let us create one private key pair. I'm creating one private key pair. I'm just mentioning pep_test1. I'm not giving anything. I'm just mentioning 2027. That's fine, click. Once you click, then you will see. See here, you will see it is showing you the public key. It won't show you private key. Private key Workday has internally stored, because that will be used for decryption. We do not need to share any private keys with any other system. Here, this is how public key looks like. Concur is going to send you, keys, something like this. You need to understand the public. Public private key pair. First one question, Ganesh. In Workday, we are generating this. That means we don't need for the outbound, right? Inbound. Yes, correct that I will come after some time. Basically in Workday, when I generated private key pair, that means see here now let us discuss inbound first, then we will avoid confusion. Now in inbound, let's say Concur is sending file to Workday, in this case encryption, where exactly encryption should happen. Encryption. Why Workday? No, sorry, Concur encryption would be required in Concur. Who would require public key? Oh, sorry, Concur only. Yes, Concur will require the public key. Here, if Concur requires public key for encrypting the file, which system is going to generate public-private key? Workday, yes, Workday. Yes, Workday will generate public-private key, public-private key and Workday, but they will be having both the keys, public and private keys. Which key Workday is going to share with Concur? Public key here. When I created this public-private key, in this case, basically this public key we are going to share with Concur. Concur will configure this key in their system, and when the file will be generated in Concur, they will be crypting that file using this key. And this private key for this is a private key pair. The private key is internally stored in Workday. We don't need to see that private key. Actually, we can't see that private key. Whenever you configure this PELSEP test in your inbound integration, automatically it will decrypt the file. I'll show you how to do that as well. But can I just one question? Yes, in like outbound Workday, because do we have access on Concur 2 for generating that key? No, why? Why would you generate? See, basically in Workday, when you will work in integration, there will be multiple systems. You will be responsible only for Workday. And let's say in your company, there are two systems, Workday and Concur. You are responsible only for Workday. For Concur, there will be another person who is managing Concur. Let's say, sorry, no, I'm telling. That person will provide that public key to us for getting that. We are going to ask him to generate one public private key and share private key with us. Got it now? Yes, for inbound and outbound. Are you guys clear? What is public key? What is private key? Are you clear? Yes, public key will be used to encrypt the files. Whichever target system, Workday will be sending the files. That system is going to generate public private key, and that system is going to share public key with Workday. Workday will be using that public key to encrypt file, and then Workday will relay files to the target system. And it's always the target's responsibility to create public and private key, right? Yes. See, the funder is you cannot share the private key. You cannot share the private key. If let's say in outbound integration, Workday is generating public private key, in that case Workday will be having public key. Workday can encrypt. How can the other system decrypt the file? They don't have private key and we cannot share the private key. Basically, the thing is, whenever in any integration, just consider the target system is going to generate public private key. That public key will be shared with the source system. Private key will not be shared by any system. Once public key. Once the source file uses that public key to encrypt the file, it generates encrypted file. That encrypted file will be sent to target system. Target system will be using the private key to decrypt that file. Any other question you have in this PCP encryption? I mean, are you able to understand the encryption, the difference between inbound and outbound? There is a slight difference. I mean only in case of the encryption, only target. In case yes. Simply, you understand the source and target, always target is going to generate public private key and source is going to use the public key generated by private key to encrypt the file. Yes, and how key looks like. That is something I have shown you. Now let's say this is a private key pair I have generated. There are two tasks you have seen, right? One task is to generate public private key pair we will use when there is inbound to Workday. When there is any integration which is inbound to Workday means data will be uploaded into Workday. And we are going to use this PCP public key when we have outbound integration and we need to configure keys from other system. For that one, we will be using PCP public key. Let's say just using this key only for example, just for example. I'm using one another. I'm creating one public key. Create PCP test public key. Test public key 1. I just pasted the certificate automatically. This automatically. It took dead valid from validity. It automatically detect. Here let me just put underscore the key I have created with this public key. Basically here, when you will be configuring, this key will be shared by the target system. You just need to configure that. Once you paste that key, always remember the formatting. You need to start from this begin and the key should end with this in block. When you will paste that key shared by any target system, automatically valid from and valid to date will be updated. You won't be able to change this validity for any key. That those details are stored in in this certificate. Basically, we won't be able to see those certificate details, but automatically this will be generated. Now I have created one PCP, it is public key. Now let me open any outbound integration, for example EIB. This is one outbound integration. If we need to encrypt this outbound EIB integration, I mean the configuration is same in core connector and EIB. In EIB we have a direct delivery method. In core connector we use to configure business process, then we configure delivery. When you will click on this details. Right now, this is Workday attachment. Let me change this Workday attachment from to FPIP. Once I change this here, you will see there is one option encrypt using. There is one option encrypt using. Whatever, this is our own integration. Public key is required for encryption. For encryption, always public key will be required. I have just pasted that public key name. See here, this public key, when I click on, oh sorry, these are the septic details I need to fill in. But anyways, this is how we used to configure the encryption. Encrypt using the specific test public key. And when you will be configuring for a decryption, when you will come, you will be configuring for inbound integration. There you will see, instead of encrypt using, you will see the option or option decrypt using. And there you need to Gensh. One question. For every time if we want to generate a public key, we have to create a public private key pair right before that. Because you copied from there, right? No. I mean that is just an example. I don't have any public key from any other system, right? That is why I just created in Workday and I use that key for public key. Basically, this public key will be shared by another system. You don't need to create this. See, the only thing, let's say in case of Workday to Concur will be sharing this kind of key to you. When Concur will share this kind of key, you will simply go here, you will simply create, just type create pp, use the task, create public key. You just configure the key shared by Concur and that's all. You can use that name for configuring in integration. I mean, here I just created because I don't have any keys from any other system, right? I just to show you guys, I just created this PCP public key using the private key pair only. You just copy paste from the private to here. Yes, but in general, what will happen here in case of target system, always target system, you will see the steps would be. Let me just mention the steps as steps for outbound target system. Target system will share public key. If not shared, ask them to share publicly. From project point of view, I'm just explaining when when public here is saved key received install certificate, public key certificate in Workday using task create pp public key name. Use public key name in delivery config to encrypt the files. And for inbound, the first step is create private key pair using create key private key pair name. Copy public key and share public key with the source system. Not copy is copy, configure. Configure private key pair name in retrieval config. Decrypt using. Here we will do create use public in delivery config encrypt using. Is this clear? Lakshmi Shalini, yes, you will remember this. Should I paste this in the chat? Anyways, I'm writing down. Do no need to paste it on the chat. We are noting it down. But this is clear, right? This encryption and decryption, how this happens. What is public key? What is private key? In what case? Who should generate public private key? Who is going to share public key? Who is going to encrypt the file? Who is going to decrypt the file? All these things. You are clear, right? Yes, cool. This is about the encryption. This is how a Workday follows in encryption. Generally, it is recommended to not share any file, to not deliver any files without encryption from Workday. Because when you are transmitting, when the file is getting transmitted, transmission, it could be other network traffic can jam that, and they can hire those. They can hack those files as well. If the file is getting hacked, your data will be leaked. It's a kind of data breach. Generally, Workday recommends whenever you are delivering files to any other system, ask them to share public key. Encrypt file using that public key. Then only you share the data. And even the same case in decryption asked, you generate the public private key. Just share public key with the target source system. Ask them to encrypt file using the public key shared by you. And then you just configure that private key in the retrieval method, and then you just use that private key, public private key, to decrypt the file. Always you see in Workday, whenever you are generating something, you don't need to encrypt or decrypt. It could be like there are some sensitive information which you don't want to show to everyone. That is something you can mask in Workday. But whenever you are generating some files and you are delivering that files to any other system, in those cases, in those cases, you should be encrypting the file always. Now, let us create an outbound integration. This encryption and decryption is clear. The next topic is outbound ABE. This is one integration system. Integration system, integration tools. We are going to create one outbound ABE now. As we have created a web service enabled, custom report. I have created many web service enabled custom report. Even you guys have created your own web service enabled custom report. We are going to use those custom report in outbound ABEs. Let me see what are the reports I have created. There are many, no worries. To create an outbound integration, to create an outbound ABE. First of all, you understand what is ABE. ABE is an integration tool which will generate data or which will load data in Workday system. This ABE has features to extract data from Workday and load data into Workday. There are two kinds of ABEs. One is outbound ABE, other is inbound ABE or bound ABE will be used to extract data from Workday, and it will, if the delivery is configured, it will relay the data to the target system. In inbound ABEs, basically inbound ABEs will be used to create, update data, delete data in the Workday system. Here we will be discussing the outbound ABEs. ABEs we have already discussed before. Let us see how we can create one outbound ABE. To create outbound ABE or inbound ABE, we have one task, create ABE. In search bar, just go and create ABE, click on create ABE. Click on create ABE. Here you just give the name of the ABE. I'm just saying, for example, can in 2001 Ganesh first ABE outbound integration. Here, if you see, we have two options. one is inbound, other is outbound. Just select outbound. Click, your outbound in EIB has been generated. Now here, this is the EIB name. This is the EIB name which I have given, and this is the ed reference it generated for this integration. Here in the comment section, you need to enter a short description of this integration, what exactly you are trying to fetching in this integration and for which vendor you are creating this integration. You can update your comment. That's the optional field, but ideally it is recommended to update a brief description about the integration here. Once you update these things, click on Next. When you will click on Next, it will ask for the data source type. Here now, everything which we will be discussing from here, you need to remember, because all these things will contain, some interview questions. Here, in this case, if you see in Get Data, there are a couple of options. The options are data source type. There are only just two data source type we have in EIB. One is custom report, another is web service. One is custom report, another is web service. Basically, we have created report as web service enabled. We will be using custom report. You can use web service as well. But to use web service, you need to understand that web service. We will be creating EIBs based on custom report. Here in the data source type, I selected the custom report. Now here in the custom report, I will select the report on which I want to create the EIB. I'm just searching for Ganesh. See, always remember, when you are creating custom reports and you are on top of that custom report, you want to create EIB. But when you search here, you are not able to find that custom report. Say, in those cases, always check whether that report is a web service enabled or not. If that report is not web service enabled, you won't be able to see that report here in the Get Data part. If you want that report to be used in this EIB, then you need to enable that report as a web service. Or if you are not able to find your report here, just check whether that report is web service enabled or not. Let me just use, this one, Ganesh, first report. When I see there are two options here, custom report and web service, when I selected custom report, then this option is enabled. When I will select web service, then if this option will be enabled, see, this option is enabled now. I'm going to use custom report. When you will click on details, you will find another option. Basically, by default, this integration is going to generate XML data format. Now, let's say if you want data in some other format, you can use this option as well. You are having option of sebesba data, JSON res, simple XML. Whatever format you want, you can use from this drop down. Then another is run as system user. Run as system user. Basically, when you will create an issue, to run issue, we are going to discuss middle letter. Issue is kind of, virtual account which will be responsible for running the integration in the tenant. When we will create issue, we will assign that issue. That is a virtual account. We will assign that issue to run this. EIB. That is something I'm just leaving for now. That's not recommended. You can assign that issue in a different way. Basically, the Get Data is configured. I have used custom report. I have given the custom report name, then click on Next. Get Data is configured, then click on Next. The next step is transformation. The next step is transformation. In transformation, you will be having multiple types of transformation. Here, if you see, there is custom report transformation and new custom report transformation. This custom report transformation and new custom report transformation is basically, this is a new EIB. For these new EIB, you are going to create a new custom report transformation. there could be some custom report transformation already present in the system. If you want to use that, you can go with the custom report transformation. But ideally, the recommendation is the first time whenever you are creating any EIB integration, just use new custom report transformation. This custom report transformation is actually to transform the data. Basically, the data will be generated in XML format. If you want that data to be generated in some other format, I'll show you how that data and you know how the transformation look like, how the data will be different. In case of transformation, you can use this new custom report transformation. This custom report transformation mechanism is a configurable one. You don't need to write any type of code to transform the XML file. But there is one more option. We have custom transformation. This custom transformation is actually where you need to write Celt code to transform XML data into some other format. This is the difference. This custom transformation will be used only when you want to write Celt. You want to transform the data using a Celt, then you will be using custom transformation. If you don't want to use Celt, you just want to configure the report transformation, you just use for the custom report transformation. At this point of time, I am not using any transformation. We will see transformation as a next step. I am just leaving this transformation. Then I'll show you how to configure custom report transformation after you know just 5 minutes, and then just click on next once your transformation is configured. Click on next and here you can configure the delivery details. Here the next step is delivery. In this deliver option, you will be able to configure the delivery details. As of now, it is Workday attachment. Workday attachment means this integration is going to generate file and will attach the file in the integration event itself. The file will not be delivered to any other system. You can just give the file name. Here I am just giving, for example, taste.xml. Document retention policy. Document retention policy is whenever you run the integration and whenever that you run the file, you run the file. You run the file filing time after you run the file. That is, you can write that document file. You need to write that file. You need to define one specified period until which you want that document to be available in the integration system. Let's say if you are configuring 1 day, then the file generated this to whenever this integration will generate this test.xml, that will be retained for just 1 day. If you try to access that document on the next day or the day after next day, then you will be able to see the document name, but you won't be able to download. It will be freeze. Basically, document will be wiped out. This is what is document in a document retention policy. Let's say if you in your company, let's say if you want to retain documents generated by integration for the next 90 days, then here you need to configure as 90. You need to configure as 90. These 90 days. This test.xml will be retained in integration event for the next 90 days. This is what this document retention policy means. Then here, if you want to generate file with a specific sequence generator, you can configure that sequence generator here. And then there are encryption mechanism. This is how we create EIB. In this EIB, the another option we have is encrypt, using whenever the target system will be sharing any public key. You will configure that public key in Workday system using create PZP public key, and you will use that PZP public key name to configure it. I have used one public key, right? I created this one public key with my name. Not my name. I think I created PGP test public. Even this is the key. Then here the last option you have is restricted. Whenever you use encrypt using, there will be couple of options. You will get ASC, I armored contain integrity, check. If there is any decrypted file name you have to give, you can give. If PC, P26 compatible, you need to select, you can select, but all these things will be instructed by your target system. Let's say if they ask you to, just check this ASCII armored. You are going to select this SCI armored. These are the formatting things. These are the different format. Basically, in an encryption, decryption, many algorithms are used. Using what algorithm the key has been generated. Based on that, this will be decided. That is something they will let you know. Whether you need to do this ASCII armored contain integrity check and all those. The main thing is you need to configure this encrypt using. And then the last part here is the restricted to. Whenever you configure any delivery, there will be one option restricted to. Always try to configure here the tenant. For example, right now we are working in implementation tenant. I want to test for implementation. I'm just using this implementation. If I need to configure another delivery details for sandbox, I can simply add here. Then here in the details, I'll just mention this as a sandbox and I'll configure the delivery details. For example, here I'm using sandbox for sandbox. If I want to use the SFTP delivery method, I can use. I can have multiple delivery methods. Configure for one integration for multiple tenants. In one integration, we can configure multiple delivery methods for multiple tenants. I'm just removing as we are working in just implementation tenant. I'm just removing this now. Click on next. Just do a high level review and then you can click on. This EIB is created. This EIB is created here. If you see the con in configuration, there are 3, but basically in EIB, whenever we will talk about EIB, there are 3 main sections. The one is get data, another is transform, and the last is delivery, deliver, get data, transform, deliver, get data, transform, deliver. This is the funder we are going to use in the EIB still here. One question. Ganesh always will deliver the XML files only or any other format files also? Sorry, come again. We will only deliver the XML files or any other formats. No, we are going to deliver other formats as well. That's why we have this transformation. If we deliver always XML file, then this step is not at all required. Basically, to transform that XML data, this step is right now. I have not configured, but I'm going to configure in the next integration run. Let me show you. Basically, this is get data, transform, deliver. Just remember this. These are the 3 major main components of EIBs. Now I have created one EIB. Let me run this EIB. To run this EIB, you go to the related action, then in integration, launch. Run now a file name. Let's say use system defaults. Now, when you will launch the integration, whatever launch parameter, let's say in report, whenever. Let's say you created one report, advanced report, and you are using that report in EIB. And that report is having 4 prompts. You have configured 4 prompts. Whatever prompts you have configured in that report, that will be available in the launch parameter when you will be running the EIB as well. That will be default. Here in my report, there is no launch parameter configured. That is why it is not asking if I have. If I would have used another report where launch parameter, where the prompt parameters are configured in the report, you would have seen those parameters here when I am running the integration. For this report, there is no parameter. There is no prompt parameter. That is why you are not able to see now here. If you see, there are 2 options. Whenever before running it is asking for 2 option as in it is asking for the file name. It is saying use system default by default, whatever file name you have configured in the integration. If you select this use system default, it is going to take that file name, whatever you have configured in the delivery. If you want to enter the file name manually, you can just select the specify value. If you want to get the file name from some other calculated field or some other field, then you can use determined value at runtime. There are three options here, and you will always see three options here. One is your system default. Your system default means whatever you have configured in the EIB, integration is going to consider only that file name. Then if you choose a specify value, then it will enable one text block. Here you can write any file name, whatever you want it. It will not ask you to select anything. If you want to mention like ganesh.xml, you will be able to use this. You don't need to select any file names. It's just like whatever you will type, the file name will be generated like that only. And if you select determine value at runtime, then here in this field, basically, you need to select one field which is available generally. When we configure the sequence generator, we used to provide file name as you just select. Next, we used to provide file name as determine value at runtime. Next, sequence for integration file utility. Whenever you configure sequence generator in EIB, here in this EIB, we have not configured any sequence generator. I'm going to use use system default. But these options you can try. You have created your own custom report. Those custom reports are web service enabled. Those custom reports are advanced report. If you have that web service enable advanced custom report, you can create EIB on top of that. Just create one of B today's. Your today's activity will be create one EIB for whatever reports you have created, run the integration and explore all these options. You know you will be able to see multiple options. Explore all these options. Now I'm going to use system default in document retention policy also. I'm going to use system default. I'm clicking on then integration will be executed. Once integration is executed, you will see this kind of screen. This is your integration event screen, where you will be able to see all the details of the integration. Here in this case is C. This is the integration is currently in processing state. The current processing time is 0 and all. When you will click on refresh, this will be updated. See, this integration has been completed in 7 seconds. Once the integration is completed, you will see one file has been generated in output files. When you click on this output file here, you can see test.xml. This file has been generated. Let me download and show you how it looks like. We have already discussed about the integration events in the past. This is how integration event looks like. Here you have the process info, process history, output files, messages, child process and other details. In the integration details, you will be able to see the launch parameters, whatever you have passed. In this case, there is no launch parameters. It's not showing, but when you will be having launch parameters, you will be able to see those launch parameters as well in integration event. Now the file has been generated. I have daily downloaded the file. Let's open that file here. Wow, this is the file. This is the XML file that has been generated using EIB. Any question till here? Good, good. Will you be able to create EIB for your custom reports? Yes, here is one Workday ED. Is this the encrypted ED? Workday ED. There is one more. When we created that customer, we haven't put that. Sorry, why it's showing this one? Where Workday Ed? It's like Workday Ed, like this one, descriptions. Basically, there are two kind of XML. One is simple XML, other is Workday XML. In simple XML, you will simply know this is the tag, you know this is C. Anyways, we are going to talk about the XML tomorrow and tomorrow. I'm going to discuss this again. Basically, these are tags in Workday XML. This for any, for some of the values, this is going to generate the difference. Let's say if there is any calculated field or there is any field which is having some reference IDs as well. Those reference IDs will come in the Workday XML. If you use simple XML, then you will simply see the data, for example, for this worker. If I am trying to access only employee ID, then I'll simply see this employee ID, this tag. This is something we will discuss tomorrow. Don't worry about that. I mean, you are able to understand this. You know how I have generated this XML from EIB integration, right? Yes, Ganesh, this is outbound EIB, right? Now that this XML is ready, like if we want to send a document to like Concur, that's a different process to sending them. Basically, see, now you know the file has been generated. Now, if you want to deliver this file to Concur, in that case, basically the delivery is C right now. If you open this integration, see, the delivery method is Workday. Attachment, we have not configured delivery. If you want to deliver this file to the Concur system, then the delivery method you have to choose as a safety or whatever delivery method your company will follow, and there you will configure when in this integration will generate the file automatically. This integration will trigger the delivery as well. You don't need to do this manually. Shalini, he say or two, it's a kind of, business process steps kind of. The integration will generate file and automatically trigger the delivery as well. Your job will be is to run the integration. That's all. Oh, now one more thing, I'll just discuss today. Then we will just, wrap up for today. As of now, I have not configured any transformation method, and here, as I have not configured any transformation, you can see the data in XML format. This is how the XML format looks like. Now, let's say you are sending this detail to Concur and Concur is saying, like, I'm not able to raise the data, whatever you have sent up. I do not read XML data. I need data in text format. Then you need to configure the transformation. To configure the transformation in EIB, first of all, what you need to do is you need to go in the enterprise interface and edit the enterprise interface. When you will edit the enterprise interface, then you will go in the configuration phase for the EIB. Here only you configured all the things right in gate data. Gate data is fine. Basically, we need transformation. What I'll do is here in transformation, I'm going to use new custom report transformation. New custom report transformation. Just select the new custom report transformation, then click next, then click next. Sorry, here in the delivery, as I am using transformation, I don't want the data in XML format. I want data in text format. I'm just mentioning .text. I mean, automatically the data will be generated in text format. I have just changed the modifier, the format. You can try using the same name and configure the transformation. Now I'm submitting this. Now when I am using this new custom report transformation, you need to configure that report transformations. How to configure that? Again, you go to interface. See, earlier you had just one option added. Now if you see, you have two options. One is edit, another is configure transformation. This configure transformation came because we have configured control. Can we have configured the transform method? that is custom report transformation. There's a just click on this custom transformation, whatever delimiter you want to use, you can configure that. I don't want comma, I want fix, pipe. I have just configured in a pipe as a delimiter. You can use, you can use mode, use delimited or fix with. Fix with means, let's say C delimited, delimited and fix with, the difference is delimited. Here it will come like first name delimited, last name delimited, hire date delimited, and on this is delimited file. The fixed width is, let's say you have defined the first name should be 8 characters. The first name should be 8 characters, but the first name is ending in 2 characters only. The file will be, let's say this one, it will be like fen. Then it will just leave 6 spaces because we have consumed just 2 spaces, and then it will again, go with the last name, the next field. You can try, both the options fixed width and delimited. In delimited, it will be just separated by one delimiter, whichever you will define and fix with. Basically, you are either going to define the length of the field. If the length of the field is not appropriate, it will just, create some blank spaces. If the length is greater than that, then, it's going to just, truncate that. Basically, you can, taste that how that will be. That works fixed with. I'm going to explain the delimiter in delimiter. I'm using a pipe as a delimiter. Then these are the 3 ending options where exactly you want cursor to end. This is line feed, then carries return, then carries return line feed. I just want the line feed whenever the integration run and the file is generated. I want the cursor to be present in the last end of file in the file. Basically, if this is the file I just want to place the cursor, here you can use the carriage return line feed. Then here you need to configure the columns, header and footer first. Let us discuss the header now. Let's say you don't want default header. Default header means whatever the field name. This is employee ed. The default header is column heading over at this one. This is the default header. If you want this header to be used in the file, you can simply keep at it as it is. If you want some different header, for example, instead of worker you want to mention worker name. You want to mention worker name, you want to mention something like this worker name, then the other field, then pipe, then other field. You can define, like that, like this. Also, in that case, you need to just, unselect this, and then whatever header you will define in file, that header will be generated. But if you are selecting include default header, then this header will not be selected. Whatever header is configured in this column, that only will be selected. In the footer, if you want to write anything, for example, end of file. Let's say, mention end of file in the footer and then in column. There are just 3 fields in my report. There are just 3 fields in my report. All those fields will come here and you need to configure. Basically, for this worker, if you want that worker field to be in double quotes, for example, like this one worker, you want the data in this format. There will be a double quotes before that takes, and there will be double quotes after the text. Then you can just keep perfect character and suffix character. If you want to define the column width, you can define the column width and then the column heading override. If you want to add any padding character, you can add the padding character. We have discussed in the sequence generator as well, similar. You know that is going to work here as well. Now I'm going to leave this as it is. You can explore multiple options here. If you will be having any question, you can ask. I'm just clicking on. I have configured the document transformation. Now what I'll do is I'll run the integration again. What was integration name, Ganesh? Which one is this one? Now I'm running the integration again and you will see the difference, how the file is getting transformed. Launch, I want to use system default only. Click your integration has been launched. Click on refresh to see where exactly the processing is. 80% completed. File has not been generated yet. Click on refresh again. Still the file has not been generated. Click again refresh. It's taking more time than the previous integration. Run that. That is because of the transformation. Earlier there was no transformation. Right now there is transformation. That is why this integration is taking more time. Now, here, if you see, there is one transformation step as well. The file has been generated. Let me download that file and let me show you the difference. It is the same integration. I have generated file in different format. Now, if I open that integration file, the file will look like this. See, this is the header, this is the data from the report, and then if I go in the last, this is end of file, which I have configured in the footer. Now, are you able to visualize when I'm talking about transformation, what exactly that means? Yes, the earlier file is the real. The earlier file was this one, this XML. This was the earlier. This was the raw data. I have just transformed this data into this data. Which one is more understandable? Next file, right? It's pretty much simple, no text, nothing. This is more understandable. With this is what happens. Let's say C integration. By default is generating XML file. Some of the systems are understanding those XML files, some system do not understand. When other system is not understanding that XML file, they will ask you to generate file in specific format. Here I'm just gender. See, I generated file in text format and this is how it looks like. I have used custom report transformation at this point of time. That was configurable. But there is another way of transforming the files. XML file, that is custom transformation using accessibility. In that one we are going to write code. That is something we are not going to discuss. Maybe tomorrow, or I'll just complete couple of more security part. Then maybe, I'll just discuss that transformation part. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel.